They say breaking up is hard to do, but sometimes it's necessary. And finally, we have some news on the frontier when it comes to Google's imminent divorce from Samsung for making their chips next year. Yes, so there's been an update talking about TSMC and the implications on their new chip for the Tensor 5 next year. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. But before we get into that, I do want to say if this is your first time stopping by the channel, thank you for being here. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and a little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. Now let's talk about the future of the Pixel phone. So by and large, the Google Tensor program, I think, has been okay so far. I don't think it's been a home run. I don't think it's been a failure, but we've known something has been in the works for a little while now because there was an announcement, I think about a year and a half ago, saying that Google was switching over from having Samsung make their chips. So in case you didn't know this, maybe you do, maybe you don't, the Google Tensor chip that's inside the Pixel phones, the Pixel 8, 7, and 6, is made by Samsung. It's not made by Google. It's made by Google working with Samsung in tandem, working together to create a custom chip to use for all Google's needs in their phones. And there's been some good things that have come out of that. There's been some bad things. Mostly, they keep using older stuff. Like they've been using older components. They've been using stuff that's not necessarily a brand new shelf. They've reused the same modem a couple of times. A lot of it, I think, in the name of saving money, which really hasn't worked out very well in some regards because we had a lot of complaints about the modem, had complaints about heat, and here's the thing. Samsung makes Exynos. Exynos is not usually known for being a fantastic chip. They're usually hotter, they're usually less efficient, and they just have some issues here and there. Sometimes they have good ones, but more often than not, they have not good ones. So most people were not very excited when they found out that Samsung was going to be the ones making the Tensor chip. Now, you can look at it a couple different ways, and I believe that it's a custom chip that they make. I mean, it's got an extra core in there, it's got the Tensor processing unit, all sorts of different stuff. It is a custom chip for Google, but Samsung doesn't make the best chips, and they don't do the best job making chips. And it's funny because some people may not even know this, but over the period of time, Samsung has actually made chips for Qualcomm before. So TSMC is the preferred vendor. They're like the best. They're like the top of the top of the top. It's like getting an original Coca-Cola and not a Walmart brand. So when you take a look at some of that stuff and what they do, how good their chips are, the tolerances, the lack of variance, and just the overall quality of the products that they make are the best in the industry. And so many people use them to make different products, buy chips from them. So when you take a look at the Snapdragon chips, they've been coming out of there for a while. And Samsung actually makes some of the chips. So a lot of people think, okay, so Qualcomm has TSMC build their chips, but they also have Samsung. Well, they have their chip foundries, they have the availability and the ability to make these processors. Not everybody can do it. You need special equipment, specially skilled labor, you need all sorts of different stuff. So Samsung has been making chips with Qualcomm for a long time, all the way back to the Samsung Galaxy S8, I believe. I don't know if they did it before then, but whenever the Snapdragon 835 came out and the Samsung Galaxy S8, they had an exclusive right to have the chip first before anybody else because they were making half the chips because TSMC did not have the availability to mass produce and make enough of the chips that Samsung needed for their phone. And that's ultimately one of the things that put the stake in the heart of LG and caused LG to make the G6 with the Snapdragon 821 in it. So that's what started the downward spiral for them. They were not able to get the Snapdragon 835. They had to wait. It caused them to have to change plans for their phone. Well, interstage right. Samsung is still making chips for Qualcomm. But last year, that changed because they were supposed to make part of the chips for the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2, I believe. Hopefully I'm saying this right. But their quality in the chips was not good. So whenever they put these chips out, they have like a certain level of acceptability and variance. Like every chip is not exactly the same. They're made the same, but they don't always come out in the wash the same. So there's like different levels of quality. And I don't remember the exact tiers, but like A+, A-, whatever. And the ones coming out of Samsung for the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 were not good, and they did not meet Qualcomm standards. So they're like, no, you're not going to make our chips. It's all going to be TSMC. So there's been some problems there. So we've known that Snapdragon and with Qualcomm and working with Samsung, but then Google decided to do the same thing, but they went with they went with Samsung to exclusively make their chip. Well, the Tensor 3 I think has been a pretty good chip. I know some people still complain about heat, some people complain about battery life. All this stuff, a lot of it does really boil down to how well the chips are made. There's so much that goes into them. So moving over to TSMC is something that most people have looked at as a really, really big move, not necessarily just because of performance, but also quality, and also giving us an overall better package whenever it comes to the phone. So I know people who've been sitting back saying, I'm not going to buy a Pixel phone until they quit working with Samsung because I don't like the Tensor that they make. I'm waiting for the TSMC. Well, like I said, we got some news update over the last day or two talking about how they're already working on this stuff. So, and they might start testing the chip as far, I think maybe the middle of this next year. So, middle of this year. So I'm really excited about this because that means that we're going to go back to basically, I think, closer to Snapdragon quality when it comes to the chips. Now, I think the Tensor's been okay, but I think it's undeniable that you take a look at what Qualcomm does with the Snapdragon chipset working with TSMC. It is an overall better chip in just about every way. And I hope this also means we'll move away from a Samsung modem, because the Samsung modem has been holding back the phones, especially whenever it comes to like phone quality, signal, reliability, and things like that, especially when they use the same modem for like 2 years in a row. So it'll be really nice to see what kind of components we get, and when they put all that together, what kind of magic that means for the Pixel 10. And I think that that could be some significant progress for the entire platform, making an overall better chip, better phone, and we'll still see that 7 years of support. So I think that'll carry a little bit more weight across the board. So I think that'll be good, and I just wanted to share that. So I think it'll be cool. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I think the Tensor G3 has been fine. It's definitely the best one that we've had so far. And everything I'm seeing about the Tensor G4 looks like it's still only going to be like a minor incremental update when it comes to the chip for the Pixel 9 that we're going to see here in a few months. And I kind of expect that. Like, if they're moving over to TSMC the following year, I don't see them trying to reinvent the wheel with the Tensor G4. Just a little bit of a boost here and there, which I think is probably going to be okay. But the big emphasis we're expecting is still going to be on AI. And that's the thing that wonders and worries me, because we've seen what the Tensor G3 can do with AI, and then we see what the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 can do with AI, and it seems to me, at least at a 35,000 foot level, like the Snapdragon is running circles around the Tensor. I mean, not really, it's not running circles around it, but whenever the Tensor G3 came out and all these AI features, I feel like Google kind of led us to believe that this was the best that we were going to get, and that they were going to be number one in AI, and that the Tensor G3 would handle the AI stuff so well. And then we, just a couple short months after that, find out that we have limitations with the Pixel 8 with even running Gemini Nano on the phone because of the RAM. Now, I know that's not necessarily a chip issue, it's a RAM issue, but if you had a better chip, it might could make up some for some of that RAM. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't think that the image and the outline of what we expected for AI and the Pixel phones with the Pixel 8 has held up as well as the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3. And you can see what it's doing with AI, with Samsung phones, with a lot of other phones. Samsung is killing it right now, and the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3, I think, is definitely a better chip. It's made by TSMC, and I think that we're going to see a big boost in quality and performance when it comes to the Tensor 5 next year. But I guess we got to see what happens with the Tensor 4 first. So that's all I got in this video. If you have any questions or comments, please go to the comment section. I'll do my best to get back with you. I know this is kind of like a high-level discussion thing, not so much like, oh, look, shiny phone thing, but I want to talk about the chipset, the implications, and the excitement for the Pixel brand moving forward into next year. So, as always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. And also have a wonderful and happy Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully you have some good barbecue. Remember the reason for the season, those here who have servicemen and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice for their country. So it's great to think about barbecue. It's great to visit with friends and family. But there is a reason that we celebrate Memorial Day. So that's all I got. I'll see you guys next time.